Five Nights at Freddy's Security Breach is a mess of a game. Everybody knows that, right? But I'm here to say that the problem with Security Breach isn't the constant soft locks, the Monty Army, or even the lack of anything substantially scary. The real problem with this game goes right down to its core, and today I'm gonna rip that virus right out into the spotlight. I do want to establish that I'm not some hater here. I mean, look at the channel, I talk about this game constantly. I've also played the game fully 2 times, once when it came out and once after the February big patch. I was gonna play it fully after last week's big patch, but I ran out of time. I think it's fun to play, but objectively, this is a bad game. And before anyone gets mad, notice I said, I like this game. You're allowed to like bad games. Just because I say the game is bad, because it is, doesn't mean you're not allowed to like it. That's not how things work. I like bad things all the time. But why am I saying that this game is bad? Because it is. Well, let's start with the obvious. When Security Breach first came out, most folks agreed that the game was nearly unplayable. On my playthrough alone, I got soft-locked multiple times, which isn't hard, since walking too quickly in the game, as it sluggishly pops in the environment, is essentially signing your own death warrant. Not to mention the worst bug I've ever encountered in any game. Not because of the bug, but because of what it made me do. Before the Fix-It patch in February, once you selected stay at 6 AM, you were no longer able to save. And to reach the after ending, you had a complete third of the game that you hadn't done before. I saved the Monty third for the post-game, so I went into Monty Gator Golf, avoided the obscene amount of security bots, got the camera left because even though Freddy yelled that I was in danger, nothing happened, left Monty Gator Golf to go to the Macercise, was told I needed the key at the bottom of the theater in the daycare, so I trekked all the way over there, got him maneuvered back until all the endoskeletons went back to Macercise, messed up the guaranteed solution, so I spent 20 minutes solving the maze puzzle, got to the Monty boss fight, beat him first try, got his calls, made it all the way to the repair bay. And when I finally went to exit Freddy to select the installation on the monitor, I was too close to the monitor. When I selected it, it locked me in Freddy and the monitor at the same time, soft locking the game, requiring me to restart to the beginning of all of it. Games are allowed to be buggy. I often find bugs and glitches more funny than aggravating, but if a game is going to expect perfection from its player, it needs to present its player perfection, like I said in the review of this game. The February patch was okay. The most recent patch was really good actually. It fixed almost every soft lock, it got rid of the Monty Army, but I played it for 45 minutes and I encountered these. It's still not done. I wasn't even trying to break it, I was just playing the game, and then something would come at me, I'd back into a corner, and suddenly, I was safe again. If you're playing a horror game, this immediately ruins the immersion. I turned the darkness all the way up, I turned the brightness all the way down, I had the fog on. It was actually kind of scary for once. I was in the daycare, I was avoiding the moon, it was creepy. And then he did this in front of me. Oh, I'm stuck. Well, it was good while it lasted. Huh? They did not fix this game. He's not scary anymore. All these bugs are a totally understandable reason to hate the game, but I don't think it's why the game is bad. Well, what about the lack of horror? This game is ostensibly supposed to be a horror game, in a definitionally horror franchise. So, where is it? Where's the scary, the spooky, the Oz? I recently played It Steals, a small indie game about monsters that primarily use stealth to get you. This motherfucking SpongeBob on a bad day legs man made me scream like a baby. He's gonna get pissed. He's pissed. This is a genuine scream. So if a game with this modest a budget and scope can manage to do that, why was Security Breach, a game with a much higher budget and larger scope, unable to ever even make me jump a little bit? For the first 60% of the game, all the animatronics are too clean and polished to be scary. They look like plastic toys, and when they're wrecked to look scarier, honestly only Roxy gets noticeably scarier. The secret final boss of the game, William Afton in the, barely any, flesh, isn't scary. His design is definitively scary, and if he was used well, maybe he would have been a good dose of horror right at the end, but having him slowly walk between monitors like an IT guy with ADHD, and then shamble forward before being scooped up by Freddy Spaghetti is not using him well. In fact, it's possibly using him in the worst way possible. And that's one of the biggest issues with this game. There's no room for horror because all the room is taken up by spectacle. This game proudly shows you every inch of the mall and every single detail they've put so much effort into. And in doing so forgot that the essence of horror is mystery and the unknown. Look at these two. Legs is weird and off-putting, at best. Roxy is less scary than that, but you don't see Legs straight on like this. Not until you beat him. You hear running coming at you at an alarmingly fast rate. You have to find the direction the noise is coming from and use your camera to scare him off, and for a brief moment, you see something huge run away. Then a few times in the level, he isn't scared off. He gets mad. And suddenly, the one time you're able to see him in full form, you're defenseless and have to run away from him in the dark to try to get away. Meanwhile, these robots walk around in broad daylight. You see the whole of them, and often, if they catch you and begin to chase you, you're only a few moments away from a Freddy save or something similar. Even after the new patch, which really updated how brightness works and added environmental fog, it only made the game more startling. It still isn't scary. It can't be. But that's still not the real problem at the heart of this game, because here's the thing. Frankly, if you patched this game perfectly and got rid of every bug and redesigned the entire visuals to make it truly horrifying, it'd still be a bad game, because the foundation of Security Breach is cracked through to the bottom. Game design is hard. It's not a science, but it is hard to get right. But this is where Security Breach fails the most. The game itself is a confusing walking simulator pretending to be a stealth-based horror game. First, the mission objective structure gives the player almost no direction on what to do or where to go. At the very best, you might have a location name on your mission list to use with your unlabeled map. And at worst, you'll have objectives like find a way to destroy Chica, with no reminders of what you've learned so far, in a mall the size of a town. Occasionally, Freddy or the environment will tell you where you need to go. But if in the likely case that while you're avoiding the mountain of security bots you forget what he said, you're shit out of luck. The game refuses to help you in any way. But even if that were fixed, the gameplay is abysmal. We all love moments like Build-A-Pizza, or the arcade machines you can play, or even Phaser Blast. But I think we only love them because they're the few vacations we get from the actual gameplay we've been given, which is a fetch quest surrounded by 1,000 lame guards. This isn't only not scary, it's not fun. The game wants you to play it like this major stealth mission, but the guards are so heavily populated and so fast that often stealthing just isn't worth it. If I have to get across a 7-mile wide hallway, avoiding these assholes the whole way through, and I try to take my time and stealth it and then die at the very end, I've wasted like 15 minutes. So then I'm just gonna try and run past it. And once your player starts feeling like they're better off running through your stealth game than stealthing, you've made a bad stealth game. And if your horror is bad and your stealth is bad and your stealth horror game, it's a bad game. Look, I know the game got reworked several times in development. I can understand what kind of development hell this game went through, but it really feels like Steelwolf focused on making really fun moments of gameplay and amazing set pieces, and then forgot to do anything else. So at the last minute, they strung them together on their weird bulletin board, and then just littered the in-between with whatever. Unfortunately, 80% of the game turned out to be whatever. This is a problem, and the worst part of it is, in the game, there is such a good example of what the game could have been. The daycare. This area is emblematic of what we could have had. We're introduced to this big area, so Steel Wolf still gets to keep their spectacle. And then we meet Sun, and while off-putting, he's not threatening or scary, but then the lights go out. Suddenly we feel very small, and we have to navigate this confusing maze in the dark with just a flashlight that has a battery. All the while, Moon crawls after us. This is great. The gameplay is challenging and fun, the horror aspect is there, the spectacle remains, and then we're immediately reminded of what actual game we're playing as we're kicked out of the daycare and find Freddy, right as every animatronic runs up and then just stands there confused. If you're being thrown to the big enemies of the game, and they're all running directly at you at once, it should feel scary, but this just feels awkward and sometimes funny, all because of the mess of this game. It could have been so much more. The real problem with Security Breach is that the game isn't fun to play. No patching, no visual redesigns can fix that. Another thing this game did add is incredibly confusing lore. So confusing that if you piece together random things and look back on the series, you make some pretty wild accusations. Like a man we've never met before currently possessing Freddy, like I go into in this video. As always, shout out to the best patron, Emberisk, and until next time, as always, stay toasty.